Rolls-Royce just wrapped up a series of secret high-altitude engine tests. The official line? It's all for America's legendary B-52 bombers, but the real story, the one being whispered about in some very interesting circles, is a rumor so shocking it could make Canada's Air Force one of the most powerful and responsive in the world. This isn't just about a new engine. It's about a technology that could completely redraw the balance of power in one of the most strategic places on Earth, the High North. For over 70 years, the B-52 Stratofortress has been the absolute workhorse of the United States Air Force. This iconic bomber is a flying paradox, a Cold War relic that's still a terrifyingly effective tool of global power. But every legend has a weakness, and for the B-52, it's the 8 ancient Pratt & Whitney TF-33 engines hanging under its wings. These engines are marvels of 1960s engineering, but they're also gas guzzlers, expensive to run, and getting harder and harder to fix. The Air Force itself admitted that keeping the TF-33s flying is a logistical nightmare that threatens the bomber's goal of flying into the 2050s. The solution was the Commercial Engine Replacement Program, or CERP, a massive multi-billion-dollar hunt for a modern engine for the old bomber. After a tough competition, the Air Force picked a winner, Rolls-Royce and its F-130 engine. The plan is to deliver more than 600 new engines, enough to repower the entire fleet of 76 bombers, which will earn the new designation B-52J. The F-130 isn't some brand-new, untested gadget. It's a military version of a commercial engine that has an insane track record with millions of flight hours. This isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about giving a legend a new set of reliable, hardened wings. The payoff is huge. Way better fuel efficiency, much less maintenance, and a lifespan so long the engines will likely stay on the B-52s until the planes themselves finally retire. Just recently, this program hit a major milestone. Rolls-Royce announced it had finished intense high-altitude and performance testing. And these weren't just simple runs in a lab. Over at the elite Arnold Engineering Development Complex, engineers put the F-130 through hell. They simulated the thin, freezing air of long-haul missions and threw all kinds of nasty, turbulent airflow at it to make sure it wouldn't choke under stress. They even tested its generator to ensure it could power the bomber's new electronics. The tests were a huge success, proving the F-130 is ready for the B-52, and that is the official story. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the B-52, one of the most famous bomber programs in the world, is the perfect cover for something far more secret? This is where we pivot from established facts to a speculative theory that's making the rounds in defense circles. A conspiracy theory? Maybe, but it's a compelling one. The whispers suggest the real prize from this engine tech isn't for the United States Air Force, but for its closest northern ally, the Royal Canadian Air Force. To get why this rumor even exists, you have to look at a map. Canada is gigantic, with a coastline touching 3 oceans. Its most critical and vulnerable frontier is the Arctic. For decades, the Arctic was just a frozen buffer zone, but with global tensions rising, it has become the new front line. Through the NORAD partnership, Canada is responsible for defending the northern gateway to North America. That's a huge job, defined by 2 brutal facts: the tyranny of distance and the brutality of the cold. If an enemy bomber or missile pops up over the pole, you have very little time to react. Your jets have to scramble from remote, freezing airfields where temperatures can hit 40 or 50 degrees below zero. In those conditions, your engines are everything. A jet that's cold-soaked on a frozen runway is a giant, useless paperweight. Current aircraft need ground heaters and slow, complicated startup routines just to get their engines warm enough to fight. Every second you're on the ground is a second an enemy gets closer. This is Canada's single biggest challenge in defending the continent. And this is where the speculative story about the Rolls-Royce tests gets truly shocking. The rumor isn't just that Canada wants the F-130, It's that a special classified version of this engine tech has been secretly tested for one reason: to master the Arctic. The unsubstantiated claims are almost science fiction. An engine that can be left to freeze down to 52 degrees Celsius and then start up without preheaters, hitting combat-ready thrust in just 93 seconds. Let's be crystal clear. There is no public evidence to back these specific numbers up. They should be treated as pure speculation. But if a capability even remotely close to this were real, it would be the single biggest leap in Arctic air power in history. It would give Canada a rapid reaction ability that no other air force could hope to match in that environment. While everyone else focuses on new radars for NORAD modernization, this rumor suggests Canada is chasing a secret ace in the hole. So, let's play what if. What if the rumors are true? What does it actually mean to have that kind of engine? It means that for the first time, an air force wouldn't be fighting the Arctic environment itself. It would have mastery over the cold. Imagine a threat appears over the North Pole. Today, that means a frantic race against the clock and the thermometer. But in this speculative future, Canadian jets could launch almost instantly. An interceptor force that's never grounded by the cold itself gains an almost unfair advantage. While a rival's planes are still trying to warm up, Canadian fighters would already be in the air, climbing to intercept. It effectively shrinks the massive Arctic battlefield and steals an enemy's most precious weapon: time. This would fundamentally change the strategic game in the high north. And it's not just about faster intercepts. An engine based on the F-130's modern design would also be way more fuel efficient. That means longer patrols, covering more territory for longer. It would mean higher readiness rates and less maintenance, all critical when you're operating from the middle of nowhere. It tackles some of the biggest hurdles that have always plagued Arctic air operations. This speculative story suggests the technology is secretly meant to give the Royal Canadian Air Force a decisive edge in the Arctic. For decades, Canada's role in continental defense has been as a partner. But with this kind of power, it would become the indispensable guardian of the northern gates, with a powerful new tool to enforce its sovereignty and deter threats. If this rumor has any shred of truth, those recent Rolls-Royce tests weren't just about keeping an old American bomber flying. They were a quiet signal that the balance of power in the high north is about to get a major shakeup, by a player nobody expected. So, we're left with two stories. The first is the official one. Rolls-Royce has successfully tested a fantastic new engine, the F-130, that will keep America's legendary B-52 flying for decades. It's a story of modernization and reliability. The second is the one told in whispers. It's a story of intrigue and secret purpose. It's the story of that same core technology being secretly perfected for the harshest place on Earth, supposedly to give the Royal Canadian Air Force a near-magical ability to operate in the brutal Arctic cold. There is no public confirmation of this secret Canadian program. It remains a fascinating and compelling rumor, a conspiracy theory born from the strategic realities of a rapidly changing world. But it sure does pose a tantalizing question. Is this the secret to the Royal Canadian Air Force's future? A game-changing technology hidden in plain sight? Or is it just a wild theory? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on the technologies shaping our world, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell.